All right, let's imagine something for a second.
Uh-huh.
Picture yourself as a sailor,
Hmm.
and it's before compasses, GPS, all that stuff.
Okay.
Approaching a coastline, it's the dead of night.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Dangerous reefs, hidden shoals everywhere,
I wouldn't want to be out there.
but all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you see a light piercing the darkness,
Oh.
cutting through the fog, showing you the way to safety.
A beacon of hope.
That's the power the Lighthouse of Alexandria had.
Wow.
And that's what we're diving into today.
Cool.
It stood for over 1,500 years.
That's incredible.
A true marvel of engineering.
Yeah, and a testament to just human ingenuity,
Yeah,
When
definitely.
the sea was a lifeline, but also so dangerous.
Exactly.
Absolutely vital.
We'll be drawing from an interview with Professor Michael Higgins for this deep dive.
Oh, great.
He's a geologist who spent years studying the ancient world.
I've heard of him.
Recently wrote a book about the science behind the wonders.
Oh, wow.
His insights are particularly fascinating about, the geological stuff.
Oh, right. How the Earth itself impacted the lighthouse.
Exactly.
He makes a great point in the book, actually.
Yeah.
About how the lighthouse's placement,
Well,
it wasn't random at all. It was
Yeah.
really key to how long it survived.
the location.
Yeah, the island of Pharos.
Okay.
And on this ridge of limestone.
Huh.
Super important.
So we're talking about Alexandria, Egypt.
Yeah.
It was founded by Alexander the Great.
Right.
Became this huge hub for trade and culture.
Uh-huh.
But the harbor was super dangerous.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even though it was so important.
That makes the lighthouse even more impressive then.
Exactly.
Huh.
It was a solution to a real problem.
Yeah, not just a pretty building.
Definitely had a job to do.
Absolutely, keeping ships safe.
Right, bringing all those goods and people.
Yep, to and from Alexandria.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing to think about how ambitious it was.
Yeah.
We're talking over 400 feet tall.
Taller than the Statue of Liberty.
Exactly.
And they built it way before modern construction techniques.
Oh, yeah.
No cranes or anything like that.
It makes you wonder how they did it.
Yeah. And that brings us to Sostratus.
Oh.
Professor Higgins thinks he wasn't just any architect.
Oh.
Probably a pretty wealthy guy in Ptolemy's court,
Makes sense.
tasked with making a structure that wasn't just functional,
Yeah.
but would also show off Alexandria's power,
Right.
to the whole Mediterranean world.
I see.
Imagine what it must have been like to actually work on it.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Quarrying the limestone, moving those huge blocks,
Right.
and somehow putting it all together
Uh-huh.
without any modern machinery.
Amazing.
And it wasn't just the local limestone.
Oh.
Professor Higgins mentions they used granite too,
Huh.
shipped all the way from Aswan,
That's far.
hundreds of miles.
Up the Nile.
Yeah, shows how much effort they put into this.
Uh-huh.
So what would this early lighthouse have looked like?
Uh-huh.
Well, Professor Higgins has some ideas. Based on archaeological stuff and old texts,
Okay.
it might have looked like those big Egyptian pylons.
Oh, like the gateways you see at temples?
Exactly.
I can picture it.
This massive tower with a giant gateway at the base,
Wow.
shining a light for ships miles away.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how they blended the traditional stuff
Oh, yeah.
with the practical side of a lighthouse.
Right.
Shows how even the newest innovations often build on older ideas.
I like that, yeah.
And as Alexandria became more important, the lighthouse had to keep up.
Makes sense.
By the time the Romans took over,
No.
Alexandria was like the grain hub for the whole empire.
Wow, so they were feeding millions of people.
Across the entire Roman world,
Yeah.
to keep that grain flowing,
Right.
the harbor had to be running all the time.
Day and night.
Yeah, and the lighthouse needed to change to handle that.
I see.
It's actually pretty interesting.
Okay.
We see how the lighthouse changed from Roman coins.
Huh.
And even this vase found all the way in Afghanistan.
What, really?
Yeah, it's called the Bagram Horde vase.
That's wild. How do those connect to the lighthouse?
They both actually show a multi-storied structure.
Oh, so the Romans added more levels.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Makes sense. They needed a bigger light.
Exactly, one that could be seen further out.
Right.
Which brings up the question of what the light actually was.
Yeah, how'd they keep it going?
Professor Higgins gets into the technical stuff.
Okay.
It's pretty fascinating.
I bet.
So imagine you need this fire burning bright enough
Right.
so it can be seen for miles.
Uh-huh.
And it has to burn every single night.
Wow.
Professor Higgins says they might have used all sorts of stuff.
Like what?
Brushwood, old ship parts,
Really?
even bitumen.
What's that?
It's a naturally occurring asphalt.
Huh. Interesting.
Makes you wonder what the air was like in Alexandria.
Oh, yeah, all that smoke.
But even more interesting
Yeah.
is how they made the light stronger.
Okay.
Professor Higgins mentions descriptions of these bronze mirrors. Yeah, placed just right to reflect the flames towards the sea.
Oh, wow. So they were using like early optics
Pretty much.
without electricity or anything?
No lenses or anything like that.
That's incredible.
But remember, this thing stood for centuries.
Guiding ships through anything.
Storms, bad weather, you name it.
Yeah, but even the Lighthouse of Alexandria
Huh.
couldn't totally escape nature.
True. Professor Higgins talks about this one event,
Oh,
this huge tsunami in 365 AD.
wow, that must have been devastating.
Yeah, it caused a ton of damage.
The whole city.
All over Alexandria, people died too.
Oh,
But the lighthouse survived.
really?
Somehow it made it through.
Huh.
Professor Higgins has a theory. He thinks there was this courtyard wall
Uh-huh.
that acted kind of like a breakwater.
Oh, so it took the force of the wave.
Exactly.
Wow, and that was just by chance.
Seems like it.
That's lucky.
Yeah, of course, the lighthouse was also just well built.
Right, strong design.
Yeah. But the story keeps going.
Oh.
Centuries passed.
Uh-huh.
Trade routes change.
Oh,
Alexandria ends up under Islamic rule.
right, right.
During this time, the lighthouse took on a new meaning.
Oh,
Became a big symbol for the city in this new era.
I see.
Luckily, we have great descriptions of the lighthouse from back then,
Oh, yeah.
especially from this guy Al-Balawi.
Okay.
He was a traveler and builder in the 12th century,
So, like, 800 years ago?
something like that.
What did he say about it?
He actually climbed to the top
Oh, wow.
and took all these measurements.
With, like, rulers and stuff.
He's ropes, actually,
Ropes.
and measured in handspans, cubits, even fathoms.
That's wild. So what did he find?
Well, his descriptions tell us a lot
Oh,
about the lighthouse as it was in the 12th century.
Okay.
So it was multi-tiered.
Still had more than one level.
Yeah, it had the square base we know about,
Uh-huh.
then an octagonal middle section,
Octagonal, so 8 sides.
Yep.
And a cylindrical top.
like a circle.
Yeah.
Wow.
And get this, it was topped with a mosque. A mosque?
Yeah, on top of the lighthouse.
That's amazing.
Shows how the lighthouse changed over time,
Right.
adapted to the city as it changed.
Yeah, it wasn't just for ships anymore.
Right, it was a symbol of faith, too.
And how important Alexandria still was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even something as amazing as the Lighthouse of Alexandria
Right.
couldn't last forever.
Time catches up to everything eventually.
Professor Higgins talks about how it finally fell apart.
Okay, what happened?
Well, one big thing was the land sinking.
The land itself was sinking.
Yeah, slowly over time.
Huh.
It brought the sea closer to the lighthouse's foundations.
Oh, I see the problem.
Yeah, remember, it was built on that solid limestone,
Right, right.
but underneath that was sand.
And sand doesn't hold up well to water.
Especially not the constant pounding of the sea.
No, it's like trying to build a sandcastle on the beach.
Exactly. Eventually the tide wins.
So the sea just wore away the foundation?
Pretty much it undermined the whole structure.
Wow, what did they do?
There are stories about them trying to fix it,
Oh,
throwing
wow.
debris in the water, trying to stop the erosion.
Like just dumping whatever they could find?
Seems that way.
Trying to hold back the sea, that's a tough battle.
Yeah, it's kind of sad they were so desperate to save it.
The symbol of their city.
Yeah. But it didn't work.
No.
And then to make things worse,
Uh-oh, what else happened?
the Black Death hit in the 14th century.
Oh, wow, that's right.
That pandemic, it was everywhere.
Across Europe and Asia?
Yeah, and it hit Alexandria hard too.
I bet.
Killed a huge part of the population.
So less people to take care of things.
Exactly. And they were already struggling with the lighthouse.
Yeah, you're not worried about a lighthouse.
When people are dying everywhere.
Exactly. Priorities change.
So between 1303 and 1323,
Okay.
it happened. The lighthouse collapsed.
Wow, after all that time.
Ibn Battuta, the traveler,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
he'd seen the lighthouse years before.
Uh-huh.
But when he came back 20 years later,
Yeah.
it was gone in the sea.
That's kind of poetic in a way.
Yeah.
It helped ships through storms for centuries.
Uh-huh.
This symbol of how clever people are.
Yeah.
How we can survive anything.
And in the end,
It was nature that took it down.
it's gone. But the story isn't over.
How so?
The remains are still down there
Under the water.
in the seabed. Yeah,
Like an underwater puzzle.
exactly. And in the
Whoa.
90s,
Uh-huh.
they were building these breakwaters,
Uh-huh.
and they found some of the lighthouses.
Wow, what a find.
Yeah, it sparked all these underwater digs
So they're learning more about it,
all the time.
about how it was built, how it grew.
Yeah, and how it finally collapsed.
History's never really lost then.
Not really. It's just waiting for us to find it,
Sometimes under the waves.
sometimes buried in the sand.
Waiting for us to put the pieces together?
So what does the Lighthouse of Alexandria teach us?
Good question.
Well, it was more than just the lighthouse.
Right. It was a symbol.
Of what humans can do,
Yeah, how we can solve problems.
adapt to change.
And leave our mark on the world.
It also shows how everything's connected.
Like history, engineering, even geology.
Exactly.
Nature shapes what we do in so many ways.
It might be gone.
But it still has a lot to teach us.
About human ingenuity,
Yeah.
how things always change,
And those mysteries.
still hidden beneath the waves.
Who knows what else we'll find?
Each new artifact, each stone.
Adds a little more to the story.
And that's what makes exploring so exciting.
It really is.
Well, that's our deep dive into the Lighthouse of Alexandria.
Fascinating stuff.
Be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive
Yes, do that.
for more journeys into history, science, and culture.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep wondering.